with backing vocals in harmony. It just elevates you. It's just one of the greatest vocal performances that I ever heard put to tape. It's so beautiful. And then the guitar work by both Don Felder and Joe Walsh, just out of this world. And speaking of Joe Walsh, okay, Joe Walsh is the guy who joined the Eagles on this record. So he wasn't present on the previous ones. And he was already a very well established artist, both with his band, the James Gang, and Barnstorm later on, and as a solo performer. And here he adds this edge to the band. The band all of a sudden became more of a rock sounding band rather than country rock. Wouldn't you agree, Alex, that there's a certain sound change here?
To be fair, I'm not too sure about that. I will have to listen to the record again in order to kind of get the same impression. But for now, I can't really recall that moment, Vlada.
But like songs like Life in the Fast Lane, Victim of Love,
Yeah, there is
also
a certain
m-
switch,
more
in the
guitar
atmosphere.
solos.
Yeah. I'm just not sure if it's, as you said, more of a rock. I don't know, more of a hard rock feel than country rock. But there is definitely some sort of change there, I would say.
I mean, there's still elements of country rock, like the New Kid in Town, Try and Love Again, but it seems like the sound is overall edgier. And what um, I like to call this period of the band the cocaine period, because a lot of it sounds kind of cocaine influenced, and there are even direct references to cocaine in the songs themselves. For example, in Life in the Fast Lane, he says. She's got lines on the mirror. She's got lines on her face. I love that kind of. Uh, this record just perfectly captures that whole atmosphere of the 70s California, high society, rock stars, hedonism, and the searching for meaning under all of this. And Hanley perfectly, in his lyricism, he perfectly exposes the how vacuous all this is, how empty this whole Hollywood scene is. I don't know. It's very hard to talk about this record. Then we have Wasted Time, and this might be the best arrangement they've ever done. Uh, the strings, the guitars, both Joe Walsh and Don Felder, a beautiful breakup song. And what they did here also is they repeat the melody of the song in a string arrangement. So what did you think about this little touch?
To be honest, Waste Time, I can remember it as one of the tracks that I um, didn't really like, to be fair.
Oh well, each to his own, as they say. And of course, Joe Walsh, which Joe Walsh, who I think is a phenomenal songwriter, unfortunately brings only one song, Pretty Maids All in a Row. Okay, of course, he also co wrote Life in the Fast Lane, but he sings only one song, and it really stands out for that reason for me, because I absolutely adore Joe Walsh. Guys, check out his 70s output. I think it's even better than the Eagles' output themselves.
That's
Much
a hot
different,
take.
much different, I would say, in terms of sound. But I would say, in my personal opinion, he is the best songwriter in this band. But he's more of a guest here, so he only takes one song. And recently Bob Dylan talked about the Eagles, and he said that this is one of his favorite songs of all time. Imagine, Pretty Maids All in a Row is one of Bob Dylan's favorite songs of all time.
One of the highlights on this record.
For sure. And it has, again, these beautiful string arrangements, these subtle guitar work. It has the backing vocals. Everything is there. It's so expertly done. And the band spent a year and a half working on this record. Imagine, that's quite a long time. So it really drained them out. But as a result, they got a near perfect record. And of course, the last resort. Uh, I completely agree with you. Again, another lyrical masterpiece by Henley, a song about the destruction not just of nature but of cultures, of colonialism in a way. There's a lot of different topics to cover here. A lot of it is open to interpretation. So, again, definitely uh, here the Eagles got really serious. I feel the messages of the songs are very honest and convincing and genuine, unlike maybe some of the songs like Peaceful Easy Feeling, on the previous record. So that's what I really love about this record. So Alexander, any words from you? Anything you would like to add?
Um, I would just say that your observation of Hotel California is really, really interesting, really insightful, and it would be really interesting to kind of take a closer look at that. Um, I don't think that song sounds good, but deep inside it has a very important meaning. So yeah, that's it.
Wait,
That's
wait,
it for.
wait. What did you think about that wonderful guitar interplay at the end of Hotel California when Walsh and Felder go at it together? Wasn't that fascinating to hear?
Yeah, it was, but it's one part of the song. You can say, that they displayed power there. They're really good guitar work, but as a whole, you know, maybe I don't know. I've heard it so
Okay.
many times, and I kind of feel I don't know. I kind of feel when you talk about it, when you talk about a song, when I just heard what you think of it, I don't really get why it is so popular. Why is it so mainstream if it has such you know such strange and let's say disputed lyrics?
Because the lyrics are such that they hit you right in the gut, even though they're open to interpretation. They obviously paint a picture of these lost individuals searching for meaning, about this despondence, this kind of disillusionment, and it speaks a lot on a certain human level. And it's not just that, but the song is damn catchy. You have this kind of flamenco influence riff, and then it kind of segues into this sort of reggae, fake reggae thing, and
Fake reggae.
the chorus is uh, extremely catchy, like a true earworm if you ever hear one. So the guitar solos, I mean, what more can be added to that? Like the guitar solos are just blistering, and especially when Joe bends that note. I mean, just watch the live version, please. Please, please. Dear listeners, while he was talking a minute ago, I literally had my head in my hands. As Don Henley wrote in Wasted Time, like with your head in your hands. Yeah, that was literally me a minute ago listening to this kind of interpretation completely devoid of passion, of interest, of just like trashing the song. Yeah, I get that it's overplayed. I get that people get tired of it. But we're talking about uh, we're talking about the quality of the tune. We don't care about these external societal influences. And when it comes to that, this is very hard to beat. Even though on this record, personally, I might prefer Wasted Time or even The Last Resort, depending on how I feel. But hard to beat this song.
All right, okay. Let's get to the ratings. Um, Probably the most exciting part about this record, giving ratings. So, okay, guys, as you heard, I wasn't too impressed with this. Maybe I need more time with it. Maybe I was just alienated with some of the popular tracks.
You just hate the
Um,
Eagles, that's it.
no, I don't hate it. And to be honest, um, I didn't really know all of those stories that you mentioned in the intro about how Eagles are notorious for some reason, how some musicians don't like them. Didn't know any of that. So I was kind of listening to this just like when you were listening the age of 14 with a fresh pair of ears, so to say.
Didn't
Yeah.
go so
So
well.
didn't go so well exactly. So my standout track here is the last one, the last resort. I think it's a marvelous track, very good lyrical content. So check that out. And the rating here is okay. Here we go. I know that it's a massive record. I know that Vlada will go crazy about it, but that's my taste. That's my current rating, and I'm not gonna lose my sleep over it. So my rating for this record is 7 out of 10.
All right, I forgive you. I'm giving this um, maybe 9.5. Um, I was kind of
That's
strung
ridiculous.
between 9 and 9.5. No, it's not ridiculous because here's why. It has several songs that just gave me chills while I was listening today. And imagine it gave me chills after all this time and listening to this record for more than 20 years and still I get chills. Particularly Hotel California. Wasted Time gave me huge chills all over, like the entire song. New Kid in Town, that vocal part at the end, that always gives me chills. And then Pretty Maids All in a Row, Joe Walsh. His whole records give me chills. He's a master. Okay, so there's no doubt in my mind that this record is far more deserving of praise that some people are willing to give it, and I'll give it 9.5. I don't care if the Eagles are not cool. This is an absolute marvel of a record.
All
And
right,
yes,
Vlada.
the
Yeah.
favorite song, the hardest part, I would say
All right.
Wasted Time. You?
The last resort, as I
Last
said.
resort. Yeah, yes. Okay, sorry. Okay,
No
so
worries.
now that we covered this big one, we're going to the record that they made afterwards. Now that they were the biggest band in the world and all that, they had a tremendous amount of pressure to deliver another Hotel California. And in this case, it's called The Long Run, and it failed. In my opinion, this record did not deliver the goods. Was
Let's
it a
hear your thoughts, Vlada.
was it a good record? Yes, it was a good record. But did it live up to the expectations set by the previous one or some other ones as well? Like Desperado was a fantastic record too, or the debut record and so on. No, not at all. You may even make a case that this might be the weakest of their 70s albums. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but let's go through the tracks. Okay? So what happened here? First of all, Randy Meisner got kicked out. Okay? So this I don't like this change. I think that Randy was perhaps even the best vocalist in the band. Try and Love Again we had on Hotel California, maybe not one of the best tracks, even though I think Aleks said it was one of his favorites. But the vocals were so top notch, also on the debut record, too. So he's out, and instead they bring in Timothy B. Schmidt from the band Poco. Now, I want to mention Poco because Poco were often compared to the Eagles as a less popular but similar band, and many people believed more authentic. So Poco was another great band. In some ways, they might have been better than the Eagles, but and never really got that kind of popularity. So if you like the Eagles and you want to hear something similar, listen to Poco. And I think Randy Meisner actually joined Poco, so it was kind of an exchange. So Timothy B. Schmidt comes in, and as soon as he comes in, he records a hit song. And that's I Can't Tell You Why, which is the second track on the album. Wonderful falsetto vocal performance by Timothy B. Schmidt. Very different from Randy. So while Randy is gone, this was a very nice uh, rendition, a great song, great performance, a great way to start your career in a big band. And again, another thing that I like about the Eagles is that they were kind of democratic. This was a new member. They immediately gave this member a massive spot on the record, a single. I think I Can't Tell You Why might have been the first or the second single of the album. So that's really nice. that they were willing to let other members shine, even though they were not necessarily there from the beginning. We had Joe Walsh on the previous record, of course, as a newcomer. And here, Joe Walsh again delivers the goods in the city, a song made famous by the film The Warriors. So, you out there who love old classic films, you all know The Warriors from the 70s. In the City was specifically written for that film and was originally his solo song, but here it was included on the band's record as well. A great tune, another highlight. Typical Joe Walsh, very rocking tune. Uh, he has two sides to him. One is this rocking side, and he's great at it. A fantastic riff master. But then you have his more melancholy, gentle side, very sad side of his that you can find on his solo records. And I think that gets overlooked a bit because most people just know him from the Eagles. But the rest of the record kind of goes through motions for me. King of Hollywood is another interesting cut because of the topic it covers, and that's all this corruption in Hollywood where actresses have to sleep with producers to get ahead. Of course, this topic was very prominent recently with Harvey Weinstein and all that. So, Alexander, did you catch this tune and the topic that they were discussing?
This tune is absolutely my highlight. I thoroughly
Oh, okay.
enjoyed this tune, and both musically and lyrically speaking. Like, I was just blown away by it. I opened up the lyrics on Google. Um, I was reading them and enjoying the music. Everything was working with this track, which doesn't really happen with the rest of the record. So that's why I'm saying that this is the highlight.
Yeah, I also think it's one of the highlights. Maybe not as good as in the city, or I can't tell you why, even though that's kind of relative, of course. And I totally agree with you that it's a great cut, great tune. But I mean, most of this stuff is okay. The Disco Strangler, kind of forgettable. I enjoyed it, but now if you ask me about it, I don't remember much other than some interesting guitar work and some like kind of new sounds for the Eagles, a bit more late 70s style. Then Heartache Tonight is kind of Eagles by numbers. So, this I think was the first single of the record, and it was a hit, but to me, it's a completely boring song. Not necessarily bad, but just boring. Very Eagles by numbers, something that you would expect the Eagles to do. Kind of a throwback to their early days, but not a good one at that, in my opinion, at least. Teenage Jail was cool. I like that one. Again,
Yeah,
I
teenage jail at times reminded me of Black Sabbath a bit.
yeah, I can see why, even though I'm not like 100% certain. But I think that the guitar work is absolutely amazing on that one, and also throughout the record, Felder and Walsh really add a lot of texture to the songs, so they kind of save the songs at times. Um, the Greeks Don't Want No Freaks. Honestly, I forgot this song. I don't remember it right now.
Really, it's so catchy. I felt that I heard this song before. It's really catchy.
Oh yeah, okay, all right. Maybe I need to give it another listen. But just that's the thing. Like this record doesn't really stay with me so much. I listened to it before, of course, and now when I listen to it again, most songs just kind of sounded like I never heard them before. I just remember them very vaguely. Uh, the Sad Cafe is an interesting tune, kind of reminiscent of The Last Resort, wouldn't you say?
Yes, in a way, it actually has a very interesting addition here, which is the sax. It has that sax solo, which is really cool. Maybe I don't know. I'm not well acquainted with the Eagles, but maybe that's the first time that they actually incorporated the saxophone, Vlada.
I'm trying to remember. It could be, but I'm not so sure. But anyway, it's the great David Sanborn on the saxophone, a jazz legend. So that's why it sounds so good. I think you can hear him on a lot of rock records by big names, and here his sound is unmistakable. As soon as I looked it up, I was like, oh yeah, of course it's David Sanborn. So great sax solo, and this song is actually about the LA music club called the Troubadour. And if some of you listened to our interview with a Survivor member, Jeffrey, he talked about his own experiences playing in the Troubadour. So you may want to check that out. A legendary LA club, and this song is about, again, has that same topic of disillusionment. That's why it's called the Sad Cafe. How they were trying to change the world with their music, but at the end of the day, not much has changed. But it also has a bit of a positive note about musicians being together in a certain community, sharing things with each other. So, a really great ending track, I think, kind of
Totally agree.
similar to The Last Resort and Hotel California. Maybe not as good as those, but I think it was an absolutely wonderful tune, especially because of that sax solo, too. So, Alexander, any thoughts on your part?
Yeah, um, I mostly agree with you. A somewhat forgettable record. I would also add that this record sounded like a mishmash. This was a mishmash record in my ears for some reason. Like
Hmm.
you have something to add?
Yeah, I was just going to agree with you because a lot of songs sound disjointed. Like In the City doesn't sound like it belongs to the record, for example. And I
Yeah,
can't tell you why too. Kind of like sounds completely different than the rest of the stuff. And the band really struggled at this time to deliver the goods. It took them more than 2 years to actually record this, and most of the time they didn't have enough material. And to me, it's interesting that Joe Walsh alone had fantastic material that came out a year before on his record. But seriously, folks, which is a much superior record to this one. So I urge you to check that one. If you feel disappointed with this one, go and check Joe Walsh's. But seriously, folks.
all right. Another thing that I want to say here is I actually want to go back to the mishmash stuff and the inconsistency here. Like, okay, you have the title track Long Run, quite forgettable, I would say. I can't tell you why in the city. Good tracks. Then the Disco Strangler, don't really remember that track. King of Hollywood, as I said, my highlight absolutely. And then King of Hollywood is followed by Heartache Tonight, which is so boring that I was like, "Hey, is this a compilation?" Like I was really
Uh,
unsure. Like Heartache Tonight, then you have Those Shoes, which is kind of better. Teenage Jail, I was it was relief. I
I
must
like
say,
Teenage Jail. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
yeah, it
overall,
had
it's
that.
it's not so bad. The record is kind of okay, but as you said, it's just so disjointed. It doesn't feel like there was a concept. Like Hotel California, it feels like there's a concept behind it. The tunes are actually sort of connected to one another.
Yeah, you just wonder, what was going on here. But the thing that saves the day here is that some of the tracks are just clear standouts, and they are kind of getting killed by these other tracks. Teenage Jail, as I said, great track. Reminds me of Black Sabbath in a way because it's kind of dark. It has a really good guitar riff. The Greeks don't want no freaks. It's really catchy. So, dear listeners, I'm pretty sure that you've heard this song before, or maybe a song that kind of reminds you of that. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. And the Sad Cafe, as you said, a great finishing track. So overall, I can't say this is a bad record. I can't say that it's I don't know. It's it's good, and at best, I would
It's
say.
okay. It's okay. It's okay. It
Yeah.
has a couple of really great tunes. In the City, I think. The Sad Cafe. I can't tell you why. A nice arrival of Timothy B. Schmidt, who is still with the band to this day. But to me, it's interesting how he arrived and then they broke up, and then he was the one who was invited to the reunion, not, for example, Randy Meisner. Um, so yeah, but great singer, great musician. So yeah, I would give it uh, seven. Let's say 7.5. But I don't know. That might be too generous. What do you think?
I was kind of between 6.5 or 7, but when I hear some of these standard tracks, I kind of lean towards 7.5, then I kind of go back. So let's stick with 7, 7 out of 10. And the highlight here is King of Hollywood. Absolutely the highlight.
In my opinion, the highlight is In the City because I
All right,
just love Joe
Vlada.
Walsh
Yeah.
so much. If I haven't mentioned that before, I'll mention it again. Yeah.
Oh, really? You like Joe Walsh? Wow.
Yes, he's a hero.
There you go. All right, so we finally got this wrapped up. My final verdict on this band is that there are some unquestionable qualities about this band, particularly their um, their kind of talent, and they also managed to produce some really big songs, big hits, and musically speaking, they're pretty much like a machine. Everything works mostly, except with some other records that we just mentioned, especially the guitars. I want to praise that once again. So I'm really glad that I had a chance to discover this band because it's not it's not mentioned so much nowadays, apart from Hotel California, which I think is unfair, guys. As much as I didn't like Hotel California as an album, I think this is definitely a band worth listening to, and I'll probably go back to some of the records and figure out if some of my ratings were too low. Um, I kind of want to be a friend with Vlada again, which I'm not sure about after this episode. So that's my
It's okay.
follow.
It's okay. It's not Pink Floyd. When we do Pink Floyd, if you give low ratings to Pink Floyd, that's it. But with Eagles, I can forgive you.
Yeah, because the Eagles are not that big, so to say. And I was kind of
I mean, they are
confused
really
because
big, and that's the thing that you mentioned. Like people know the Eagles by Hotel California, but no, they also know them by many other tracks too. I think it might be that your generation primarily knows them by Hotel California, as that song withstood the test of time the most, right?
honestly, I would say that my generation doesn't even know about the Eagles, but that's another story, I guess. um, yeah,
They
that's
know
that.
about what is his name?
Billie Eilish,
No, Buba
Post
Corelli.
Malone. Oh no, no!
Sorry,
I was
that's more
trying.
of a local reference. Sorry, guys.
That's really bad. All right, so um, there's one thing that kind of confused me, Vlada, that you said. You said that they were one of the biggest, if not the biggest band in the '70s. So not all time like Pink Floyd, for
Well,
example.
what I
You
meant
kind
was
of
commercially, not necessarily the best. Like I wouldn't claim the Eagles are the best or anything like that, but commercially they were one of the biggest acts. Alongside Led Zeppelin, and Floyd was quite big too. But I think I'm not sure if Eagles sold more records in the 70s or not. Fleetwood Mac, that we already talked about, was also a huge seller. So these are, like, commercially speaking, the biggest acts of the 70s.
okay, got it. All right, so Vlada, any final words from your side?
Well, I'm just really happy that we covered the Eagles. And of course, this might be one of our longest episodes because I felt that there was much to talk about, especially when it comes to Hotel California, one of my favorite records of all time. So I just want to thank our listeners for staying with us for this long hour of listening to us talking about the Eagles of all bands. And I
Is
hope
it an hour long?
yes, Yes, definitely. We are
Goodness.
into the second hour of the show.
Wow, that's special.
All right. Well, we'll see once it gets edited, and when you edit out all the bad things they said about you, it might be like only 30 minutes. Who knows?
Good one.
All right. Thank you, dear listeners. We'll see you again next week. Please take care. Listen to some great music. Alex, any final words on your part?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind our listeners to take a look at our social media accounts Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook if you want to stay updated with all the funny stuff and all the news about Soundrise. You can follow us over there. And also, if you want to be able to vote and suggest your own band, please consider joining our Patreon community. You can join it for as little as $1 per month. That would mean the world to us, guys. So stay safe, take care, and we'll see you in a week.
Write a review, and then you can share it.
With the world.
In any social media platform.
And then your friends see it, and you can share and discover new shows together.
This is Steph, instigator of Pod Rev Day, Podcast Review Day.
And I'm Andy from Inspired Money.
And I'm Ariel of Earbuds Podcast Collective and Castbox.
We're here to tell you everything you need to know about Pod Rev Day.
Which is on the 8th of every month, of every year, of every century, of every, you get it.
We are posting podcast reviews as part of hashtag PodRevDay, Podcast Review Day.
Because podcasters work their butts off and deserve to know how much they've impacted your lives. And you can do that through reviews.
Even 1 star feels surprisingly good.
Does
It
it?
lets you know that people are at least listening.
Don't be a passive podcast listener. Write a review and tell your favorite creator what you love about their podcast or about a specific episode.
And to participate, you just need to do 1 review.
And we'll see you every 8th of the month.
Pod Rev Day, because podcasters deserve to hear it.
Hashtag
Pod Rev Day. PODREVDAY.